Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and this fall along we want to take a look here at NAT Gateways. Now, these things are a little bit expensive, so if you don't want to spin one up, that is totally fine. But I'm going to go ahead and do that here so we know how they work. The purpose of a NAT Gateway is to allow private instances within a VPC to communicate outbound to the internet because if they're in a private subnet, they're not going to be able to do so. So that's what we're going to do in this video. And we're going to have to go ahead, as per usual, and make ourselves a VPC. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we do that, I'm just going to pop over and take a look at what the requirements are for NAT Gateway. I assume that we can just make one per subnet, but sometimes with these networking services, they might ask for more than one AZ or something, even though I know that we should only be using one AZ. But I'm just double checking here. Yeah, we'll be choosing a single subnet. We'll also have to create our own elastic IP. So let's go ahead and create ourselves our VPC. So we'll just say here, NAT example. It will say with a 10.0.0.16, we'll have one AZ, no public subnets, one private subnet. We're not going to set up a NAT gateway here. We're going to say none on this, and we'll create this VPC. So that will be step one. The other thing we need to do is create ourselves an elastic IP address. So we'll go ahead over to EC2, as I believe that's where they are. And on the left-hand side, we're going to look for elastic IPs. And from here, we'll allocate a new elastic IP from the IPv4 pool. And we'll go ahead and allocate that. So now we have our elastic IP. If we go over to our NAT gateway, we'll say my NAT gateway 01. We'll choose the single private subnet that we have, which is 1A. The connection type, select connectivity type for the NAT gateway. Wouldn't it be public? It'd be public, yes, public, because NAT, you can NAT stuff privately as well. We covered that in the slides. We'll go ahead and choose our elastic IP. We'll look at some additional configurations. That all looks fine. We'll go ahead and create that NAT gateway. And that's going to spin up that NAT gateway. As that is spinning up, let's go ahead and get our EC2 instance going. So I'm going to make my way over to GitHub as per usual. And we need to have a bit of code. So we'll go to AWS examples. And I'm just thinking about this for a moment because the reason we want the NAT gateway is so that we can have an outbound connection to it. If we launch up our usual server that we usually do, I'm going to hit period here. It does allow us to have SSM role. So maybe what we can do, like to test that this works, is that as long as we can establish a connection with Sessions Manager, then we know that it's working because then we can actually get into the instance. We don't need it to spin up a web server. So what I'm going to do is just make a new folder here and we'll just call NAT Gateway. I imagine we already have this code somewhere else in another example. Probably with interface endpoint. Let's go take a look at that template. Because all I need is the SSM role. I don't need the web server. So we'll copy this one instead. And we'll make our way over to that folder that I just created for NAT Gateway. Does anybody see it? There it is. I'm sure you were seeing it, but I can't hear you, so it's not going to help too much. We'll go ahead and paste that in. And so we have a few things here. The T3 micro, we'll have to choose our VPC. So I'll go here and grab that as I still have it open. So I'll just paste that in there. We need the subnet ID, which we have right here. So grab that. Loving this new mouse, even though it's not the nicest mouse. Clicks really loud though. And so we have our T3 micro, the image is set up, the subnet set up, the VPC set up. We'll scroll on down here. We are specifying a very specific security group. This made sense for that other example because we were bringing in the default security group. I suppose we could do that for this one as well. I'm not really too worried about it. So maybe that's what we'll do. So I'm just going to go into this VPC here and checkbox it. Does it have like default security group here? No. I'll copy the VPC ID and I'll make my way over to EC2 and we'll go find out what that security group is. So if we go to our security groups, wherever that is here, security groups, here we are. I am searching for the default one, which is this one here. Let's just click into it. And it's allowing any inbound traffic from anything that's within the security group and any outbound traffic to anywhere. Yeah, so that should work. I think that we don't have to do anything fancy here. So I'm going to grab that security group ID and we'll make our way back over to here. And I'm going to paste this in place. I'm going to delete it. Just make sure that I actually got the new one. Good. And I'm going to go ahead and download this template. I'm going to open up my downloads directory off screen here. I'm deleting my old template YAML file that we've been downloading a bunch of times. I'm going to go download this template. I'm going to make my way over to CloudFormation. I'm going to try to leave some of these tabs open here. CloudFormation. I'm going to want to upload this. So say create the stack, upload a file, dragging that template file over. We'll hit next. Because we already pre-filled these in earlier, we don't have to worry about that. We'll say NAT EC2 example, and we'll launch this one up, and we will drop this down. And so what I'm thinking is that if the NAT gateway is deployed, then the agent can go out and talk to the thing will be able to connect to it. So before we do that, let's just make sure this is deployed. Is this fully deployed? Oh, it failed to deploy. Well, good thing we didn't launch that CloudFormation template yet. So what is its problem? Does it tell us why? Failed. Okay, great. Why did it fail? We'd love to know why. Why is a great answer as to why something failed. It doesn't say. All right, NAT Gateway failed to launch. There may have been an error when it was created. For more information, see the NAT Gateway creation fails. Check. Sure, I'd love to see that. Where is that? A NAT Gateway failed is automatically deleted usually in about there was an error with the NAT Gateway created. Subnet has insufficient free addresses to create a NAT Gateway. The network has no internet gateway attached. Oh, I guess we probably would need to have an internet gateway. That makes sense. Let's go ahead and do that. So, all right, well, let's just do that and see if that helps. Because I'm just trying to think here, like, we'd have to update our route table, but our route table is for the private subnet, and our private subnet should not be going outbound to the internet. Also, don't we need to have a public subnet? Because in order to deploy the NAT gateway, it would have to deploy in the public subnet and have a route to the internet, and then our private subnet would, yeah, I think that's what we're talking about here. So what I'm going to do is go back to our VPC, and we'll just tear this down. I really messed that one up. And we'll go ahead and, you can see I actually have more than one here. I'm going to delete this. Also, it looks like I have 2 VPCs. I didn't delete the last one. I was trying to do a VPN client and it failed as a tutorial, and I didn't delete that earlier. What we'll do is go ahead and create a new VPC. We'll say VPC or like NAT Gateway example. And we will choose 10.0.0.0/16 as our range. Actually, we'll do VPC and more, so this just saves us some time. NAT Gateway. I'm going to have 1 public subnet, 1 private subnet. I'm not going to set up a NAT Gateway because I, again, want to set that up manually. We'll have no VPC endpoint. We'll create this VPC, and that's going to spin that all up. Now the problem is with our CloudFormation template, this is now old, so we'll have to swap out these values here. I'm just going to do that right here. Okay, and I'm just going to grab this subnet. Oh, that was the subnet. And then we'll grab this VPC here. Actually, which is which? I don't know now. I had 2 tabs open. We'll go back to your VPCs, and we'll grab this one. I don't feel like, if this messes up, I don't feel like having to do this multiple times. So I'm just going to paste it in here for now. And this time, we will go back here, and I want to choose the private subnet. So this is the private one right here. Okay. And I'll also do that over here as well. Just grab this one. Okay. So now we have those set up. We'll go ahead and attempt the NAT Gateway again. I'm going to just see if I can delete this one. I think it's going to delete after an hour, they said. So I guess I'll have to spin up a new one. My NAT Gateway 2. And we'll choose this time our public subnet, which is here. And this will be public, which makes sense. We'll drop this down and use this elastic IP. We'll go ahead and say create NAT Gateway. I know there's an Internet Gateway because if we chose a public subnet, it would have already added that as a routing mechanism. So I'm hoping that that is going to put us in good shape here. Let's go back to NAT Gateways and just carefully monitor this until it deploys. Be back here in just a moment, okay? All right, let's take a look here. We'll give it a refresh. And it's now available, so we should be in good shape to launch our EC2 instance, because if our public subnet has our NAT gateway and it has a route to the internet, then deploying our this fellow here into our private subnet should put us in good shape. Good. Just double check, make sure we're using that private subnet and not that public one. Okay, good. We'll go ahead and hit next. Down below next. And we'll say I acknowledge, and we'll submit this, and we'll wait for this to deploy. And hopefully we don't run into any issues. See you back here in just a moment. And our EC2 instance failed for some reason. It says security group does not exist. Oh yeah, because we updated that value in here and it's hard-coded, so that's where we're running into that issue. I'm just gonna extract that out and call it a group ID so I don't have this problem again. Group ID. And then I'll go down below here. We'll just change this out to ref group ID. And I mean, we didn't specify one. It should automatically utilize it, but I think we should be very explicit here in terms of what we use. So that way I have less problems. I'm going to go over to security groups. I guess it's under EC2, right? Security groups. Which is which? Nobody knows. Is this the newer one? Nope. It's this one, so I'll copy this. I don't know why they don't put it right there. It would make it so much easier to see the name of the security group or the VPC, so you could find that match there. We'll copy this one. I'm going to go back over to my template, go all the way to the top here. I'm going to paste this into here, and I will delete my local template YAML file. We'll go ahead and download this one. I'll make my way back over to CloudFormation, and we're going to go ahead and delete this stack because this one is junk now. We'll refresh this, and we'll create ourselves a new stack. So go back to stacks here, create a new stack. We'll upload the template. We'll drag this one on over. We'll go ahead and hit next, and we'll say EC2. What are we doing in this one? We're doing something. NAT Gateway, yeah, NAT Gateway. And this time we don't have to update anything because we did that before. We'll acknowledge. And so hopefully this time it's going to work. So I'll see you back here in just a moment, okay? Okay, so our NAT Gateway is now deployed. So the question is, are we able to connect to it, or was there something else that we needed to do? We're going to find out here in just a moment by switching over to EC2 and establishing, or seeing if we can establish a connection here. So I'm just going to take off that. So we were just seeing all of them. We'll checkbox this one, hit connect. Please just work. It says to connect to an instance sessions manager. Systems manager requires an IAM instance profile. We absolutely have that. If you still can't connect, etc., etc. So maybe there's something that is missing here. It's still initializing, so maybe we should just give it a moment to finish, and then we'll check, okay? All right, let's see if those status checks have passed. They have. Let's go ahead and see if we can establish a connection. And we still cannot. So there's something that is missing that it wants. What that could be, I'm not sure. Let's take a look at our subnets and see if we can figure that out. So I'm going to make my way over to VPC. And we will go first check the VPC configuration. We should have DNS host names on. So we have resolution of DNS and host names. Let's go take a look at our subnets. For our private, the question is it resolving DNS host names? For some reason, I think there would be a setting in here. Maybe this is fine. Resource names, DNS A record. Not 100% sure here. Let's go ahead and check. Edit subnet settings. I don't think we need that. Okay, I mean, these look fine to me. Let's go back to our EC2 instance and take a look at its configuration. I'm gonna go to the networking tab. It has a DNS for private IP, so everything looks to be okay here. We do have that IP address, but it's associated with the NAT Gateway, so it has nothing to do with our instance. So that all looks okay. Could it be our route tables? I mean, we didn't configure it. It was auto-configured for us, so I would expect we have this going to the internet gateway. And this allows for any traffic local. And then this one here, we have routes for local. Do we have to add a route for the NAT gateway? That's what I'm thinking here. Because this is local, but how would it know to talk to each other? And I'm pretty sure we can add a route for NAT gateway. So that's probably what our issue is. We're missing a route. So let me go figure out where this route's supposed to be. Yeah, so I think what we're missing is here we're supposed to put 0000, and we're supposed to select our NAT gateway, and that way our private subnet can go out to anywhere, which would then go to our public subnet, I suppose. So let's see if that helps that out. We might have to relaunch the instance because if the agent had attempted to connect and failed, I don't know if it's going to continuously try to connect, but we can go ahead and try to establish our connection here. I'm going to give this a hard refresh and see what happens. So no good. What I'll do is go over to CloudFormation. Well, first we could just try restarting the instance. Not that that always works, but we'll go ahead and give this a reboot. So I'm going to go here and do this. Actually, I'll give it a full stop. To confirm that you want to stop this instance, after you stop the instance, you're no longer charged. Yeah, I know that. We'll go do that. So I'll stop that, and then we'll start it up here in just a moment. All right, so that's been stopped. Let's go ahead and restart that instance. And so what I'm hoping for here is that when it launches up, that SSM agent is going to establish that connection. And then it's going to allow us to use Sessions Manager. And assuming our routes are configured correctly, then that will put us in great shape. But we'll have to wait here and find out in a moment, okay? Okay, so let's take a look here and see if we get our status checks. We do. Now, does our connection work? Please just work. And we have no warning, so that is a very great indicator that this is working. With Sessions Manager, you have to play around with it a bit and just understand what that agent is doing underneath. It's trying to establish a connection. If it fails to do so for any configuration, you got to take it on down. But there, we've established our connection, proving that our NAT gateway is working. So that's all I really wanted to do here. And we were very successful there. Of course, we missed that one single route, so it's good that we figured that out. I'm going to go ahead and terminate this instance. I'm going to make our way over to VPC. And while terminating the instance isn't going to do much because we actually have to tear down the CloudFormation stack, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this stack. Hopefully it doesn't have trouble doing that because we terminated that over there. While that is happening, I'm going to make my way back over to VPC. We don't need that NAT anymore. So we'll go look for the NAT gateway, wherever it is. Here it is. There we go. We'll go ahead and tear this down. So we'll delete the NAT gateway. I don't know if it will instantly delete, but it will probably delete after a bit of time. Notice this one's going to hang around for a little while, at least an hour before it goes away. But yeah, we'll just hang tight here and wait a little bit. And then once those things are torn down, then we'll get rid of that VPC. Be back here in just a moment, okay? All right, so our stack has now been torn down. Let's go take a look and look at that gateway. That's been deleted, so we're in good shape. Let's make our way over to our VPC, and we'll go ahead and delete this VPC. It should delete all the resources we wanted to delete, so it is going ahead and doing that. I'm going to check Internet Gateway. Sometimes they are hanging around here, and I don't want extra ones. But it looks like everything tore down. So yeah, that is NAT Gateway. Of course, NAT Gateway can get very expensive very quickly, but it is fully managed, so that is really nice. But we'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.